I'm assuming we're all gathered, ready for our next day, day 2 of our retreat. I hope you slept well and feel that you're arriving more in the retreat. It does take some time. Last night we had a puja, which I found very, very helpful, connecting back to the Buddha, strengthening our sense of Sangha, given the conditions we're all practicing in at the moment. Very, very helpful, very supportive. And I'm glad to be back with you today. So as yesterday, I'm going to start with a poem from the collection of the first free women, poems of the early Buddhist nuns. After this, we'll just sit for a few minutes and allow ourselves to settle. This is from Sama, she's called, S-A-M-A. After 25 years on the path, I'd experienced almost everything except peace. When I was young, my mother told me that I would find true happiness only in marriage. Remembering her words all those years later, something in me began to tremble. I gave myself to the trembling, and it showed me all the pain this little heart had ever known, and how countless lives of searching had brought me at last to the present moment, which I happily married. Can you imagine? We've been living together ever since without a single argument. So let us too settle into this moment in time, this present moment, allowing it all to be there, whatever you've brought to this moment, becoming aware of it and acknowledging it, breathing with it, letting it be enough to just sit with it. Settling, relaxing. So our journey has begun, the journey into this retreat, the journey into the Satipatthana practice, into the depths of the Dharma, into the depths of our being. And at the moment, we're mainly concerned with the first Satipatthana, the first foundation of mindfulness, the first way of establishing mindfulness, the body. And yesterday afternoon, we had a very beautiful, very beneficial body scan led by Maitri Mala, where she talked about the benefits of being mindful of the body. And I wanted to follow that up a little bit today, to take care of this body and give it a little bit of warmth, just noticed. Okay. There we go. I hope you're comfortable. Body as happy as it can be under these conditions. So Maitri Mala talked about grounding, especially when we lie down. That's just so delicious to give the whole body up to gravity, and then receive those effects. And this theme of the grounding effect of mindfulness is very, I think it's important, and it's very, it's good to take that on, to be really fully aware of that. And in the Pali Canon, there's an image that's used of 6 wild animals that they're tied together, and they pull in each of their own directions, and they've got different kind of strengths, so they drag all the others with them, and then that one pulls in that direction, that one pulls in that direction, and they're tugged and lugged and pulled all over the place, which is a bit like our mind sometimes. It's whatever pops in, whatever comes in through the senses, then it's there, and I'm everywhere, and I'm nowhere. And I'm definitely not at home. I'm definitely not grounded. So what happens? This really strong pole is driven into the ground, and each of these animals are tied to the pole. And then they still try to get away, but they quickly tire, and then they just lie down on the ground. So that's the story from the Pali Canon. And it is this pole of mindfulness, the stabilizing, grounding effect of mindfulness. And how we do that in our practice is we drop down into the body. In whatever posture your body's in, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, drop down into the body. And this morning I had a good night's sleep, which is great, doesn't happen that often. So I woke up and I just took some moments to reflect, and I went into the body and just became aware of how am I lying? So what was the position of my body on waking? Was I on my back? Was it turned over a little bit? Just taking a few moments to feel into the body, to feel into my being, to feel in how have I woken up? How is my heart, mind in this moment? Not needing to do anything with it, before rushing into the next activity, which would be getting up, going to the bathroom, or putting the kettle on for my first cup of tea. And that's what we usually do, isn't it? Our mind leans into the future, and the body has no choice but to kind of run with it. It can't but be taken along for the ride. But how present are we? That's the question. And this leaning into the future, which the mind does, the next thing, is exhausting, and it weakens the mind. So you could just practice this again throughout the day, whatever activity it is, you're getting dressed, you're making yourself a cup of tea, grounding yourself in your body. Really the tactile touch of, perhaps if you're doing the cooking, the tactile touch of your vegetables, or the soles of the feet on the ground, or you're sitting, the touch of your bum on the cushion, whatever, that's very, very helpful. And it just kind of stops the running commentary, or it weakens it at least. This doesn't have to be done at a snail's pace. I remember Bhante talked about his first experience of people being mindful when he came back to the West. And they were like zombies, moving about, knowing they're lifting their hands and slowing down to something that was lifeless. So that's not where we want to go. That's not what mindfulness is about. You can move at your normal pace, but with awareness, being present for this particular movement, activity, meeting, whatever presents itself to your experience. Of course, slowing down can be helpful. It can help us to notice more. We can use it as a support, especially on retreat, where life is simpler. The number of activities we need to attend to are just reduced. So reducing slowing down is supportive. They're like training components. That's your gear. Put your gear on for the practice. Reduce, slow down, simplify. And of course, this grounding in the body is really helpful when the mind gets caught up in its stories or in its commenting or in its planning or whatever, when it gets lost. And sometimes we talk about the mind jumping onto thought trains. It's as if there's this train going by and it's got all these little wagons and the mind just jumps on. There was no intention of doing that. Doesn't even know where the train's going, but it kind of jumps on. As another image of a bus comes by, and you might be at the bus stop, but there's this jumping on the bus impulsively, mindlessly, in a way. It's not even the right number bus. I didn't want to get on that bus. You could have a kind of image of keep one foot on the ground. And if you notice you're lifting the other foot, oh, is that where I wanted to go? So anchoring in the body, touching the earth, very, very helpful. And grounding the body, literally grounding the body, steadies the mind and helps us develop and strengthen inner stability. And this is where, the foundations of mindfulness, the different fields of practice, they begin to enrich one another. They intertwine. So it's important what we do with our body, where we are with our body. If we're in our body, it's really important. And this stability, inner stability, steadiness of mind, monkey mind, this butterfly, flutter. I don't even know. Oh, and it's fluttering is English, isn't it? Fluttering from one flower to the other. But for the purpose of, let's say, being present, going deeper, the mind needs to settle steady. And we can take this into our meditation posture too. Whatever posture you choose to meditate in, whether it's sitting or lying down, it's a conscious positioning of the body. So we take up a form that we don't usually have in our daily life. And that's already a message to the mind. This is different. So there's an inner reorientation, let's say, or at least a readiness to enter into a new dimension of our being and experience. And that helps us then to ground the nervous system, centering, grounding, calming, settling into presence. Just a few weeks ago, I was on a Transcendental Principle retreat studying chapter 1 of the survey. And in the section on meditation, section 17, I came across this wonderful, wonderful quote from Bhante, which I'm going to read to you now. This is the young poetic Sangharachita. Yeah. And reading it again, I thought, this is like an ode to mindfulness. Now, and remember, this was written a long, long time ago, before the whole hype around mindfulness, the whole thing with secular mindfulness was even known. Yeah. So this is Bhante. Bodily composure, though itself the product of a certain mental attitude, turns round, as it were, and, reacting on the mind, produces an even deeper quietude of spirit than before. It should, moreover, be noted that through the practice of mindfulness and self-possession, the most trivial occasions of life are invested with a halo of sanctity. Eating, drinking, and dressing, the processes of excretion and urination even, are transformed from hindrances into helps to concentration. From interruptions of the spiritual life, they become its continuation into another form. Its continuation under another form. Obliterated is the distinction between things sacred and things profane. When morality is pure and clear consciousness in all activities firmly established, from morning to night, not a minute is wasted. Uninterrupted from dawn till dusk flows the current of spiritual life, the stream of constant striving after holiness. And even in sleep, if the practice be intense enough, that clear consciousness is still shining, even as shines the moon amidst the darkness of night. Oh, it's so beautiful, so beautiful. I'll post it for you later on. Yeah. And in that, there is much to reflect on. I thought, gosh, we could spend a few mornings just reflecting on this reading. So, do feel free, whatever is posted on the notice board, choose one text, one line, one word, and take some time to reflect on it, to be with it. What is it? More and more of less and less. Yeah. Sometimes we discover gems in the reducing, going back to less. So embodied mindfulness provides an anchor, a kind of, in inverted commas, refuge to keep coming back to throughout the day. Yeah. We'll be introducing this in our meditation practice today, the idea of an anchor. It's a place of rest for the mind to return to. It's like the mind coming home after it's been on an outing, yeah, or it's got lost. It comes back home, anchoring in the body. So I thought today it might be worth talking a little bit, looking a little bit more closely at what mindfulness is. yeah, what clearly knowing is. So far I've spoken about or referred to mindfulness as being present, this sense of presence. And yesterday we were introduced to right mindfulness. In the definition, this is in the Dharmic context, we're practicing right mindfulness, which is a limb of the Eightfold Path. So mindfulness is accompanied by the knowing aspect, interest, endurance, the not giving up aspect, by ease, not too much struggle, not too much effort, steadying the mind, yeah, not tossed about by desires and discontent. So these areas make mindfulness, we could say, or transform it into, lift it onto the level of right mindfulness. And I'll be talking a little bit about sampajanya today as well. So the knowing element in the definition, there's a spectrum there. It's just simply knowing, I know I'm sitting, I know I'm talking, I know I'm looking at the camera, yeah? Right up to deep discriminating wisdom. So there's this whole spectrum that becomes available to us through practicing, I'd say, sati sampajanya or satipatthana. So what is mindfulness? To start off with, sati or smriti in Sanskrit. Being present means, it's referring to this immediate contact with your direct experience. Direct experience is a key word here. So you're aware of experiencing what's there. There might be sounds, sights, smells, tastes when you're having your breakfast, yeah, touch, you go out for a walk and you feel the wind on your face. There are mental activities going on, thoughts, moods, emotions, a mental state. You might be bored, you might be concentrated, you might be distracted. It is being aware of that. It's not getting rid of any of these experiences or thinking one is more spiritual or holy than the other. We turn it around and we become fully aware. We are having the direct experience. Let me feel what boredom is like. How interesting. So you change, we're shifting around, and there's this mundane thing that normally is in the way. Get rid of it. How interesting. Let me know you. Let me experience you. Let me moving closer. Standing close by with mindfulness. So mindfulness shines a light on experience. It reflects the experience. It makes it more known to us, brings it more into awareness. A few other qualities I'll mention of mindfulness, of sati. It's sati, by the way, is feminine, which I've recently learned, well, a couple of years ago. So I'll try and refer to mindfulness as she. Yeah, she is receptive. Mindfulness is receptive. There's openness, non-judgmental. Yeah, that is non-judgmental. And with that comes a freshness to this moment has never existed before. Yeah. This is completely new. So a freshness, not being reactive, bringing old stuff to the moment. I know this, I know that, I know you, I know this experience, and I deal with it in my habitual way. It's non-reactive. It opens the door to non-reactivity, let's say it like that. So it's reactive, non-judgmental, and it doesn't interfere. So this kind of mindfulness doesn't interfere with the experience by adding something or taking something away to make it more how we'd like it to be. That's not what mindfulness does. Mindfulness settles for a live presence. And I really think that practicing mindfulness, you get in touch with an innate aliveness. Even if you're lying in your bed trying to breathe, you can still connect to this sense of aliveness. Yeah. Mindfulness also has the quality of a soft readiness. Yeah, I really like this. I once heard it described as a bird landing on your hand, and the touch is very light. Yeah, they're not, well, little. I'm thinking of little birds now. Yeah, my friend sitting next to me is an expert, so I have to be careful what I say here about little birds, very light. And you hold this bird. Now you wouldn't try to hold it tightly. It would be very light, allowing it to rest there. So this is the touch, the quality of the touch of mindfulness. And in that there is an allowing, an accepting. Mindfulness is warm, is friendly. And the friendliness comes in a way through the back door. You notice, mindfulness is all about noticing. You could just use that word if it helps, if it's more helpful for you. You notice you're distracted in meditation. And with this noticing is a response of just smiling recognition. Distraction. Okay. There's a kind of patience. And this is for me where these, I would say, more feminine qualities, the patience, the being with, allowing, that comes in here. So instead of when we're distracted or we're reacting to something, getting angry, don't like this, I wish it were different, the kindly recognition replaces reproach, putting oneself down, failure, and going back into this getting smaller and smaller and less alive, and losing this sense of joy, presence. With regard to mindfulness, it's not about having a particular experience, but it's the quality of awareness with which we meet the experience. Yeah, so that's really important. That's why nothing is excluded from this practice. We're not needing to have spiritual experiences to be mindful. We are meeting with this beautiful quality of aliveness, receptivity, kindness, warmth, allowing. We're meeting experience, any experience, in that way. And maybe the experience changes by bringing mindfulness to it. I'm sure many of you have had this experience, but we can't make this change happen. That's not what we're trying to do by being mindful. Sometimes just the very power of seeing and knowing is enough. Sometimes it needs more wise discernment, making other decisions. Maitreya Bandhu, in his book on, what's it called? On Satipatthana, basically, the first book, he refers to awareness as the guardian angel. And I've got a little note here. I don't know if this is from him or if it was one of my thoughts, but I think it's helpful either way. The reason why angels fly is because they hold themselves lightly. It's lovely, isn't it? So our practice is valuable. It's essential. And we want it to go deep, but we hold it lightly. There's one of my favorite quotes, I'm just going to bring it in here, is by Ajahn Chah. And it's this quality, the liberating quality of mindfulness in a nutshell. The more we see, the less we cling. The less we cling, the less we suffer. If we don't cling, whatever arises is naturally freed. I think on one of my first long 3-month retreats, practicing Satipatthana, I had this longing to surrender. I didn't know what I wanted to surrender to. It was just this longing to surrender. And that stayed with me a few years, trying to somehow make sense of it. And over time, it's something about, and that's what I hear in this quote, entrusting the whole of one's being, the whole of my being, to the three jewels, to the Dharma, to the Buddha, to the Sangha, and trusting our practice. So I'm going to conclude this part just about sati with a few lines from Analayo's, Bhikkhu Analayo, one of his, I think this is the latest book on Satipatthana itself, the practice guide, where it's the whole focus is on practice. It's less of an academic exploration. Visualizing the practice in terms of a coming back to the presence of a good friend helps to avoid mistaking sati for a forceful type of hyper-attentiveness that requires strained effort in order to be maintained. Instead, being in her presence carries the flavor of an open receptivity and a soft alertness to whatever is taking place. Okay, so that's with regard to sati. And now let's look a little bit more at sampajanya, this knowing aspect, which I said yesterday carries a seed of wisdom in it. Sampajanya emphasizes a clarity of mind, and it's the basis for wise discernment, making wise choices, differentiating between skillful and unskillful, for example. And what we're talking about now is what we're entering, the terrain we're entering into is the power of knowing. And the power of knowing, that knowing has the power to lessen the grip, lessen the grip or the aversion, which is usually all wrapped up in the term clinging, not clinging to anything in the world, to anything in our experience. Now, Bhante, in Living with Awareness, talks about sampajanya as clear intention, mindful of purpose. And he says, it's awareness of what you're doing and why, so that that aspiration or intention is allowed to permeate everything you do. Now, this is really, really crucial. So it means then for us, is what I'm doing in line with or supportive of my immediate intention, my immediate aim, and my higher aspiration? So it's about, let's say, aims, intentions, goals even, which are nearby and which are further away. So long term or right now, what's needed right now. So we're on this path, and we are aware with Sampajanya of what, where we're going. We're bearing that in mind. We're not losing sight of the object, you could say. We're not losing sight of the goal. We're not losing connection with our aspiration. And we bring in our friend Atapi here, the staying with, keeping alive. You remember? The wellspring of the courageous heart, this diligence, Atapi. It's what helps me keep going. I stay with my intention. I stay on track. I stay in contact with the object. And with regard to meditation, this could simply mean, you decide, I'm going to do metta bhavana today. You sit down and you do metta practice, and you keep in contact, you keep the object here, in inverted commas, of your meditation. Your meditation object is metta. So you're keeping this connection to your heart, you're keeping the heart open. This is how Sampajanya helps and is needed. So it's there without me having to say in this forceful way that Analia was just talking about, oh, I need to know now. It's not, we're not putting a straitjacket on and cutting ourselves off from life when we practice mindfulness and clearly knowing. On the contrary, we're relaxing into the fullness of it. We're opening up into life. We are becoming more life. Yeah, we're becoming out more ourselves, you could say, in order to go beyond ourselves. So this Sampajanya, it supports consistency of practice. Yeah. We're not losing sight, we're staying on track, we keep going deeper, keep going deeper. It's also the quality of mindfulness that helps us decide, okay, in order to do that, what do I need, what's needed, and what's helpful? And that is for each of us individually to find out. It also addresses the means, so what's appropriate. See what's needed, what's helpful, but then the means. So it kind of, it gets to finer and finer levels, you could say, of this knowing what we're doing, why we're doing, where we're going with it, and what supports it, what nourishes it, and what's appropriate for my present situation. And just being with some of you yesterday in the groups, we're in such different situations, whether it's our health, whether it's our living conditions, whether we're in lockdown, whether we're lonely, whether we're in company, what's appropriate. And so we're keeping the initiative, which is what we often talk about. This is an expression of Sampajanya. Now, bringing these two together, they're very often, we talk about Sati Sampajanya. And I think this is important, that we don't strip mindfulness down, which can, I think, is a reduced understanding or application of mindfulness. It's all about being in the here and now. It is about being in the present moment, but we are not cutting off from the rest of life, as we'll see a little bit later on, or we're not cutting off from the context. So both of them together mean I experience what's going on and I know that it's going on. I think one of the first things I got excited about, I had no idea about Satipatthana at that time. I was a mitra. I was already giving talks because there's nobody else here to give talks. And I had this quote from Bhante, and he says something like, he talks about mindfulness, you're experiencing that you're breathing. And then he goes on and says, you experience breathing and you know you're breathing. There's a huge difference. No? Explore it, explore it. Why is this important? To avoid the extremes of alienation. Yeah, I've already referred to this with the lifeless zombies. If you just know, I know I'm moving, I know I'm talking, it becomes lifeless, and you're in danger of alienating yourself from your body. We live in our bodies. Yeah, it's what we've got. In and of itself, it's just a heap of stuff. Yeah, elements and anatomical parts and neurons and goodness knows what. But it's precious because it is our vehicle for life and for practice. So we don't want to be alienated from our experience, from our bodies. We don't want to be alienated from our emotions, from our experience, by just erring on the side of knowing, noting. Neither, and that's the other extreme, do we want to get lost in the experience, lost in thought, consumed by strong emotions. You become, we're tied then, we're chained to the emotion. And my memory is here, Bhante in the early days talking about this is the state of mind out of which crime of passion happens. Yeah, complete shutdown of all cognitive aspects and just driven by a passion, blind passion. Anyway, so I'm going to turn to Bhante again, if I can. Yeah, here we go. This again is living with awareness, and where Bhante brings the two together, Sati Sampajanya. Sati Sampajanya has a balancing and integrating quality that permeates every area of experience to bring about a whole way of life concentrated not so much on a future goal as on the dynamic, cumulative nature of the path itself. Once you have learned to recognize and cultivate this precious quality, you will never lose touch with the truth that our existence is not confined to the present, and that what we will become depends to a very great extent on what we do now. I think we'll have a few minutes break now, just to let all that settle, filter down, before we go into meditation. Let's have 10 minutes break now, then we'll have a meditation. And after the meditation, I'm going to conclude the exploration of the structure of the sutta, talk about the last part, the refrain. So we'll have, oh no, we'll have 15 minutes now. Let's have 15 minutes now. Yeah, please be back in 15 minutes time to start the meditation. Then we'll meditate. And then after the meditation, we'll just pause. We don't, you might need to lie down, change your body posture, and then I'll conclude the input for today. Okay. We have contact.
Good.
Oh, well, it would be a bit boring if we didn't have any technical hitches, wouldn't it? So before you settle into your meditation posture, I just wanted to say something about meditating lying down, which is a great, it's one of the 4 traditional postures, but it's also not easy to meditate lying down because the brain receives the message, it's time to sleep, on kind of, drift off. What can be helpful is if you're lying down and you hold your arm up like this. That has the effect that when you do start to nod, your arm will go like this, and you'll feel that, so that'll wake you up. You can also put something in your hand. If you drop off to sleep, your fingers will relax and you'll drop it, so you hear it, and that'll wake you up. You could just try that out. For me, it's enough if I just have my hand like this and I notice it, and then, oh, okay. Smilingly recognize I was dropping off, and you come back. And it's a training. It's not easy to meditate lying down, but it's, yeah, some of you may know it is possible. Okay, so settle into your meditation posture. Again, we'll meditate a good half hour. And as you take up this posture, just become aware of the effect. Feel the effect of consciously bringing the body into this shape on this place. On your seat. Grounding the body as we did yesterday. Relaxing into the touch of the earth. Softening wherever it's possible to soften. To let go of the inner grip. And settling the mind, allowing the mind to rest on and in the body. And when you feel grounded, supported by the earth, and allowing the body to grow into its fullness, openness, without strain, without stretching. Just responding to this kindly little pull at the crown of the head, connecting you to the open potential of the blue sky, vast, endless space in all directions. And allowing this natural reaching towards that, growing into that, to be felt in the body. So just enough tension to hold your posture. Just what's necessary. And then as much relaxation, letting go as possible. And we do that throughout the meditation, relaxing again and again and again. Coming home to this moment in our experience. So relaxing any holding, physically, mentally. Any resistance or struggle, turn to it with kindly awareness. Befriend your experience. Just notice what's going on in your mind. Where are you? We can offer the mind a place of rest and ease to return to. An anchor. And this anchor is in the body. Could be the movements of the body while breathing, sensations of breathing. Just connecting with a part of the body where you are happy and comfortable to be with the breath. And the place where you can clearly experience directly, coming and going of the breath. Bodily sensations of expansion, and then flowing back, relaxing on the out-breath. If breathing is not a place where you feel your mind is at ease, at rest, then go into a part of the body as your anchor. Sensations of touch, be it your hands touching one another, resting on a part of the body, feet, soles of the feet on the floor, the bum on your chair or cushion. Just take some time to establish yourself in this new relationship with your anchor. Resting in presence. Your anchor might also be whole body awareness. Very relaxed sense of the whole body in this composed posture. Relaxing the body, relaxing the mind. Relaxing the heart. Be curious about this sensation, whether it's the sensation of touch or sensations of breathing, as if entering a new country, a new universe. Is anything changing there? Just open to noticing that. And if the mind gets caught up, as it will do, in a distraction, in a story, the moment you notice that, rejoice. I've seen you. And then return to your anchor, allowing the body to relax again, the mind to steady and settle in this place of ease and rest.
You might like to take a couple of minutes just to ease your body. If you need to lie down or stand up or have a stretch before we move into the last phase of this morning. Okay, so if you'd like to make yourselves comfortable, play with this, or try out this idea of offering your mind an anchor in your meditation, this place of relaxed receptivity, restfulness to return to. Whatever meditation you're doing, it can be really, really helpful. If the mind gets tired, strained, overwhelmed, you notice there's too much willfulness, you can just return to this place in your body, whether it be the breathing of the body, sensations, parts of the body, where you feel really comfortable,
where you can be at home, and then from there you proceed with the meditation. And I really hope that we can have more and more of an experience of what it's like to be mindful rather than needing to do mindfulness. It's a big difference. This entering this dimension of being in a relaxed alertness, so that it almost becomes second nature, is very different from the heady idea of, oh, now I've got to eat mindfully as well. You know, it's just another thing to add to my to-do list. Eating mindfully, walking mindfully, listen to music mindfully. And the mind just gets stuck in aversion there. That's a whole other chapter. So befriend mindfulness, be with it. So we've gone through the structure of the sutta, and we've explored right mindfulness. Now, the last component of the sutta that I'd like to look at today to conclude this overview is the refrain. And the refrain really, this is a very, very important part of the sutta. And as you'll see on that diagram, it's repeated again and again. I think it's 13 times, that it's repeated. So this is the instruction, this is the heartbeat, this is the way we look, these different ways of looking, applying the Dharmic perspective. Doing this enables us to discover the Dharma in and through our own experience. I'll say that again, because this is crucial. We discover the Dharma in and through our own experience. And that's very different to learning the Dharma, even to understanding the Dharma. Of course, we need to understand it, but we need to, it needs to go deeper into more realization, to the third level of wisdom. And we can only do this through our own experience and making it our own, and not just repeating what we've learned. That can be of great value, and it can take us a long way, but it can't take us all the way. We need to discover, we need to get in the water and swim. Okay, so the refrain. 4 ways of relating to what's happening, we could say. And it's at this point that we bring in right view. And this is where the wisdom, the insight aspect comes alive. So we could say that we're meeting, exploring experience through different lenses here. And ideally, I'd have the refrain to read to you, but I don't. Oh, wait. Yeah. Viridi is going to go and run off and get it again. It's so wonderful having a friend just right next to you who just goes off and gets what you've forgotten. Nothing like good friends around you. Okay, so the refrain is this message to us. Look with interest, investigate, explore. So is there a willingness? We need to be honest with ourselves. Am I willing to discover it's not what I thought it was? I'm not who I thought I was. It's not how I thought it would be. Are we willing to explore that and engage with it? Now, an important aspect of the refrain here is we're not just sitting, feeling, standing, experiencing with awareness. There's also an intentionality, yeah, which is part of our experience. Intentionality, or even volition, we could talk about here. And the volition here, the intentionality, is to see, to meet, to know experience in the light of the Dharma. So applying right view. The ground we stand on as Dharma practitioners, our orientation is the Dharma. And this is what the Buddha is communicating in the refrain. So cultivating insight into impermanence, into emptiness, in order to actualize, to realize, to bring forth the liberating potential of this practice. So this is really crucial now, where the point we're getting to with the refrain. So the first way of looking at what's happening is, I wanted to read it, didn't I? Well, I'll do that now. So we've become aware of the body, and then the refrain comes. In this way, in regard to the body, she abides contemplating the body internally, or she abides contemplating the body externally, or she abides contemplating the body both internally and externally. She abides contemplating the nature of arising in the body, and she abides contemplating the nature of passing away in the body. Or she abides contemplating the nature of both arising and passing away in the body. Mindfulness that there is a body is established in her to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and continuous mindfulness. And she abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. That is how, in regard to the body, she abides contemplating the body. So there are 4 instructions here. The first instruction is contemplating, looking at the experience inside, out, internally, externally, both internally and externally. So here we're putting on the lens or the glasses of interconnectedness. It's not just about my experience. It's not limited to all about my experience. What am I feeling, and so on. You know, what am I experiencing? It's not just about self. So we're broadening out now the perspective. This is what Bhante calls the altruistic dimension of the practice. Self and other. So I'm aware of others. If, you know, body, I can't be in someone else's body, but we read body language. We're able to see if someone's unhappy, if someone's happy. Yeah, that's how we can read one another. And this here, I think, is the basis for empathy, for metta, for compassion, for connection, and ethical awareness. Yeah. Reflect on that. Mudita, I forgot mudita. So imagination is also comes into the praxis here. We need imagination to empathize, to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. Yeah. And I wanted to share my screen with you here, which I'll do, because then you can see the refrain. Here we go. Okay, so here's the refrain, and here are the 4 dimensions. So first, I've just spoken about internally, externally, and externally. The next way of looking or relating to experience with a dharmic experience is arising, passing away, both arising and passing away. So now we're looking through the lens of impermanence, aware of change. This is a key insight element. And we can apply this to any part of our experience, aware of the breath changing. Maybe you just did it in the meditation, aware of sensations changing, growing, becoming less, becoming more. What's happening here is we're training in not seeing things as fixed objects, neither ourselves nor other people, nor our inner experience, but more as process. A flow. We're entering into a flow of change here. That's the invitation. So all these experiences, mind states, emotions, thoughts, are not fixed things. The third dimension, the third way of looking, is to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and continuous mindfulness. So this is the perspective here means just being mindful for the sake of it. And it's highlighting the value of mindfulness, the potential in mindfulness. Not getting caught up in the experience, not getting hooked, and then we're off. And we're no longer present. We're no longer there where we are. This is the Bahya teaching. In the seen, just the seen. In the heard, just the heard. And this third instruction also points to the necessity of developing continuity of mindfulness. And that will be a thread, hopefully, throughout the week. There's no on-off switch regarding mindfulness. You can be mindful of being tired. I think I've already said this. You can be mindful of your breathing. You're mindful of your mind states. You're mindful of what's going on around you. I'm looking at you, but I'm mindful of Viridi sitting next to me. It's not an either nor or, shutting out parts of our experience or shutting down. And that way, we get more and more into this groove of continuously living mindfully, coming alive more. Fourthly, the fourth dimension, way of looking, abiding independent, not clinging to anything in the world. This is the real testing ground. This is the bottom line. If you forget the others, I think most of us are probably familiar with the impermanence. But this is really the bottom line, not clinging to anything. It's always relevant, always relevant. Not clinging to anything in the world, if you remember, is not, the world means here in the world of my experience. So I'm not clinging to my ideas. I'm not clinging to my opinions. I'm not clinging to my health. I mean, this is transformative stuff. This is big. Knowing that attachment, clinging, is the cause of suffering. So we're taking that on board now more fully. If I react, there's clinging. Check it out. Is that true? Check it out. We can't change the way things are, not directly. Maybe sometimes we can have an influence, but we can change the way we relate to the thing, to them. So that's why the refrain is so important here. Okay. And really, there's not a lot more I'd like to say about the refrain at this point. We'll apply it. The more important thing is applying it. There's loads one can explore regarding this, but we'll be applying the refrain more and more throughout the week. That's my intention anyway. Regarding practice throughout the day, I'd like to suggest we take on this first instruction, the internally, externally, both internally and externally. So this is making it more comprehensive, the practice. So when you're out walking, you're letting in, you're being aware of the external world, your senses of listening, seeing the colors, the autumn colors, smelling the grass or whatever it is, smelling the cows in the field if you've got ones nearby. So it's this receptive and aliveness to the external world, to other people around you, to the circumstances of your life. So it's like kind of oscillation of life. It's like breathing internally, externally, aware of what's happening in my experience, aware of what's going on around me. Internally and externally is just, it's both. It's not just about me. And I'll close with a little line from Pema Chodron. This is, I think, from the book on death and living. And she says, relax into the truth of this moment without it having to mean something about me. Okay, so I wish us all a good day of practice and look forward to seeing some of you later and then this evening at the ritual.